part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Hawkeye Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast, your daily podcast covering your Iowa Hawkeyes on the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, I am your host, Andrew Wade, excited to be back for another episode today, and we have a very special guest. We are joined by former Richmond Spiders forward, current Capital City Go-Go's member in the G League, TJ Cline. TJ, my man, you are on your way to a game is what I presume, and you're sitting here taking the time to talk to me at the airport. I appreciate that. First off, though, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. It's been an awesome 48 hours. I was actually, I like you said, I play in DC, and the A10 tournament was out in DC, so it was fitting, and I got to be out there and see all the games. So we haven't danced in a long time, and I know everybody in Richmond's thrilled, and I'm just thrilled to get to see my team in the tournament.
Hell yeah, man. I think I saw some photos around of you pretty freaking excited after the tournament win. So definitely awesome to see. I'm excited to talk about this game. Iowa fans are also just psyched up, man. It has been a long time since we won a Big Ten tournament. I was actually in the hospital with my newborn baby, trying not to scream and yell while Iowa was beating Purdue. So it has been quite a whirlwind for me as well. Before we get into the conversation with you, I want to thank all of our listeners for making the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast your first listen every single day. You can find the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast for free wherever you get podcasts at, and also on YouTube by searching Locked On Hawkeyes. So, TJ, let's just start off with the tournament. What was the feeling like for you? You are obviously very invested in the Richmond program. You were on some very strong teams that made the NIT, but were not able to make the actual tournament itself. What did that mean for you to be able to see your former coach and your former team make the tournament?
It's a special feeling. I know you guys have the same feeling watching your guys win the Big Ten tournament. Just kind of like long overdue. We've been so close, and with the COVID year, we thought we were going to make the tournament. We thought we had a strong enough resume, and obviously that crushed a lot of dreams. So it's not just about us there, but just to get to see what Coach Mooney's done and kind of the heat. We had really, we have a great fan base, the Richmond fan base, but we had a few, bad fans, calling for his job and putting signs up and billboards, and it was really appalling. And I know all the former players, stepped in and said something, and to kind of see him get this done, and he never says he wants to prove the haters wrong. He always wants to, make the believers right. And so we're all big Mooney believers, and we love that guy, and he's given us a platform and a place to kind of to be here and to be part of this program. So to see him and, one of my best friends, Grant Golden, who's our center, he was a freshman when I was a senior. So we've had a bond for a long time and a lot of years, and to be there with him and his family and to kind of experience there and to get to see him accomplish his goals. Like you said, I was on a few NIT teams. We made a few good runs, but we never got to crack that NCAA code, and to see him do it and just everybody, it was in DC, so we had the whole arena for Richmond fans. It was a special moment, and so, I just can't take the smile off my face.
Dude, you can tell just how excited you are about this. I absolutely love it. That's how I've been feeling the last couple of days as well. I'm like, you know what? Iowa won a Big Ten tournament. I'm just happy right now and just trying to enjoy that moment. So pretty exciting. We're going to see on Thursday two teams that are rocket hot right now, right? These two teams are on fire the last couple of weeks. Richmond coming into the tournament, winning the entire tournament and supplanting Dayton, right? Kicking Dayton out of the tournament, which I bet you are very excited about as well. I can only imagine you probably don't like the Dayton Flyers. Would that be an accurate assumption?
Yeah. It's safe to say that and they actually, I actually got to go up to the game, our last game of the year, which wasn't senior night. We did our senior night the second to last game, but our last game of the year at home, they beat us tie game on a walk-off kind of alley-oop from out of bounds with 0.4 to go or whatever. So that game really stuck with our seniors. It stuck with the fan base, just kind of seeing them celebrate with our, on the last game of the season. So for them to get that win and kind of also knock them out is it's a cool feeling. But we love our A10 guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Icing on the cake. You mentioned Grant Golden, and I actually had a question here specifically about that because it seems like, I'm not obviously a huge Richmond follower, but just doing my research, seems like you and Grant are pretty close, which sounds like, he is one of your best friends. How has his game evolved, and how have you kind of worked with him to get to this point where he is leading this team into the NCAA tournament as a 12 seed who some people are predicting to upset Iowa?
Yeah, and I think that's what you said it. Like, how can he lead this team? I think Grant's had, he's a kid who's 6'10", 260, and he's always been a huge bruiser and kind of he's always been very skilled. He's always kind of had the game he has now. He's kind of always just been polishing it. He's got to take reps since he was a freshman, and obviously with the COVID years, so he's seen everything that everybody's thrown at him. And I think with him, it's more so the fact that he's now in a role where he's a 6-year senior having to lead, as you just mentioned. And he's doing a great job of kind of making sure that everybody knows their role, that nobody's trying to do what they need to do. This has been a tough season as it is. We had a lot of really close games that didn't go our way, kind of the opposite effect of Providence. So we really had a tough stretch in these close games, and to kind of see these guys pull it off and Grant lead the way he did, and Gilyard kind of lead with his play. But I always keep my eye on Grant. He's always kind of, when everything goes well, he's telling everybody, calm down, stay calm. When it's going bad, he's telling everybody, just stay calm. So I think that's the biggest thing he's learned, which is, an unteachable kind of trait. You kind of have to go through it with experience, and that'll really help him at the next level.
Absolutely. You guys have your own basically version of Jordan Bohannon, also a 6-year senior who is taking advantage of his COVID year. Before we get to what are your thoughts on Jordan Bohannon? Obviously, I don't think you've ever played against him. I looked at your previous games, but what are your thoughts on Jordan Bohannon as a player and as an advocate for NIL type of stuff?
I mean, well, so let me, first of all, as a player, I have a lot of respect for him. Obviously, I'm a big college basketball fan, so I've seen a lot of Iowa games with you guys doing as well as you guys did this year. So a lot of respect for his game, but I'm not familiar. He's a big NIL advocate.
Yeah, he was. It was him and the guy from Rutgers. I'm drawing a blank on, not Geo. Yeah, it's Geo. I think it's Geo Baker. Yeah, so those two were really big advocates for NIL and trying to push for that legislation. And he's been really pesky towards the NCAA to try to get some of that NCAA regulations fixed. So, yeah, he's been a huge advocate. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm with him on that. I think the players should be getting their fair share of what they put in. It's kind of, it's just like in the real world. It's the money, just like in real life as an adult, whatever. If you have likeness, if this podcast gets a certain number of views, if you guys, then sponsorships comes around. And sponsorship means money, and money means nicer things. And then, so it's just a basic way of life. And I think that people got caught up with, they're paying for school, that it was that's enough. But when you're driving in money, I don't see why it's not. I think it's what the great thing that I'm seeing about this in college basketball, and there needs to be a fine line between, I think I saw some guys getting paid $8 million to go somewhere or something, you know what I mean? These numbers are getting out of hand, but I think there needs to be a fine line between getting what you need, what you can do, because it's allowing guys to come back to be 5th and 6th year players, or to be 4th year senior. Oscar Shigwe might come back to Kentucky because he might make more money than being a 2nd round pick, or, you know what I mean? So it's just, I think that's a great thing, because then you get to see guys build and not just one and dones. But I do think there needs to be a limit on what can be done, so there's not tampering. I still want the authenticity of a Richmond to be able to get a great recruit like a Tyler Burton without being outbidded for him by another team, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think when you look at like the football perspective, and as now, let's say in Alabama, for example, they have a ton of 5-star and 4-star recruits. Whereas like Iowa might have 1 or 2 5-star or 4-star recruits. Alabama then possibly has the ability to go pay a bunch of 3 and 4-star guys to walk on, because they're going to make money and walk on without a scholarship. So it definitely kind of takes away some of that authenticity. I definitely appreciate your perspective on that. Talking about Richmond versus Iowa, how do you feel like Richmond matches up with Iowa? It sounds like you watch a lot of college basketball. You watch a lot of Iowa games. What gives you the best excitement towards this game, and what kind of gives you the most concern about Iowa versus Richmond matching up?
Well, what gives me the most concern is obviously just the potency on offense that you guys have, from Keegan Murray to, both Murray brothers. I know the other one's really shot well recently to end the season in the tournament, to Bohannon. But I just think what, obviously you guys are on such a a tear right now that it's hard to match up with that. I mean, you guys just played 4 days ago. Now you're playing again. You'll still have your same rhythm, as will we. But what did give me confidence is that I got to see, Richmond really play solid defense against Davidson, and Davidson has a really explosive offense as well. Really, really locked in and stayed on there with only 1 day of scout. So, with a few days, we have a really good coaching staff. So that does give me hope. But I think that it's going to be, that and just rebounding, making sure we keep Keegan off the glass and those extra possessions. Because as you know, offensive rebounds lead to wide open threes. And when you got guys who can shoot like you, that can kind of kill a game, especially in an NCAA tournament where every possession is so, important.
Absolutely. You look at Davidson. Davidson is 11th in KenPom adjusted efficiency. Richmond did a fantastic job holding them to 62 points. You mentioned the shooting and the potency of Iowa, and then also the ability to grab rebounds. When I look at KenPom, Richmond is not a very good offensive rebounding team. So on the flip side of that, has there been an issue, or are those analytics maybe not lining up? Has there been an issue with Richmond being able to extend possessions when they do miss shots on the offensive glass?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what you'll see that, Richmond runs, and Coach Mooney doesn't like to call it this, but he went to Princeton. We run a really very similar with our own variations of the Princeton offense. So I think our thought process is we're going to get you in a half court game, although we might try to speed up a little bit. We did that a little bit in Washington this past weekend, a little press just to slow it down. But, I think that we run an offense that's very hard to guard. And for 30 seconds, we're going to make you guard for 25, 26 seconds to utilize that. So I think when you use that much time on the clock, I think that your odds of getting the higher percentage shot is more likely, because you're waiting for your opportunities, not just jacking up. So I think that with that, there's less chances for offensive rebounds, because you feel like, oh, we're getting the shot that we want, we're getting the back door, we're getting this, we're getting that. So I think that it's it's a little bit of aggressiveness, but it's a little bit of the style that we play, and I think that's why the numbers are a little bit skewed.
Yeah. That makes sense. I really appreciate that explanation. What is Chris Mooney's defensive style like?
Well, they've changed it up since I was there. I wasn't the best defender in college, and I know that they had they're more of a man team now. We were used to run kind of a variation of kind of a matchup zone where we try to keep the center in the middle, but now I think we play a little bit of more man-to-man. And, with the court being a little bit, it's different shooting in the A10 than versus Iowa. But, the court's we can shrink the court a little bit, and being in the passing lanes and being help a little bit more. Obviously, I think that could be a problem with the shooting. But the defense is, it's very keyed on per game. Like, our scouts are really good. Our assistant coaches are really detailed in their execution of what they want to do. And Coach Mooney's great at in-game adjustments. So it'll just kind of be what the flow of the game is, and just kind of, play a chess match with McCaffrey.
Absolutely. I mean, Fran McCaffrey has been on his A game this entire year. I feel like he has just been pushing all of the right buttons. So it sounds like this is going to be a really fun game to watch, as you said, from a coaching perspective. How do you combat the counter? How do you counter the counter throughout the game? One of the interesting tidbits about the Richmond team, Jacob Gilyard is averaging 3.1 steals per game. Richmond is one of the best teams in the nation in stealing the ball or forcing turnovers for other teams. What does Jacob Gilyard do so well on the defensive side of the basketball to force those turnovers?
Well, he plays the passing lanes and he anticipates really well. He's, as you'll see, he's one of the quickest guards in the nation. With his size, it's hard to keep up with him, the way he can just move and his vision. But you kind of see it on offense. He kind of makes the pass before before you even knew you were going to bite on the pump fake. Yeah. And he really has that next level savvy that as a Richmond, at Richmond, we really appreciate that, because we want to play smart basketball. But I think that he sees what they're going to do before they do it. So when they're throwing it in the post, he might come backside, and he has very quick hands. So, when you're driving middle and he knows you have nowhere to go because he's stunted, he's not going to run out to the shooter. He's going to run to the passing lane and pick that ball off. And he's just a really special player. It's been amazing to kind of see him, because it's so normal now to see him get 5-6 steals in a game. But he'll get 3 or 4 on Thursday, and you'll say, wow, some of them will just be like, holy, how did he read that?
Yeah.
Or, what quick hands. But he's a really special help side defender, and he really makes our team go.
It should be really interesting to see what that looks like on the flip side, because we have Joe Toussaint, who I would argue is kind of our version of Jacob Gilyard, maybe not to that extent. Joe Toussaint coming off the bench, getting a couple steals every single game, forcing a lot of turnovers, doing a great job of kind of getting into the passing lanes. So that'll be interesting to see as well. How have teams defended Grant Golden? Because Iowa likes to collapse on the big men. As you kind of mentioned with Jacob Gilyard, he likes to attack different areas, right? He's not just stealing the ball from the guy he's guarding. He's attacking other people throughout the game. How do people typically defend Grant Golden?
So Grant, it's a little bit different. Like you guys said, you like to double the post and attack, and that could be problematic for you guys because honestly, Grant's probably one of the best passing big men I've ever seen. And I prided myself on passing, and he really is. I mean, it's at, if you see some of the clips and the backdoor passes that he makes and the angles that he sees the game like a guard. And so I think that could be problematic if they double and if you go one-on-one, like I said, he's 6'10", 260. So he's a real matchup nightmare. We just got to keep him aggressive. And but I think that, what they've done in the A10, which will be different. And you said you double, but they, A10 size is different than Big Ten size, right? So there's not an EJ Liddell at the 4-man sometimes, for Ohio State. It's like that's going to be a 5-man, the biggest guy on the court. So it's a lot of double teams, like you said. So he gets a lot of those cuts, and we have really good cutters, and we have a lot of good spacing because of Gilyard's range. But I think that, I truly believe that he could have success with not the lack of size, but he could have success if there is double teams and not that without there being a strong interior presence.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting because Iowa is one of the more undersized teams in the Big Ten. But as we saw versus Purdue, they were willing to bring on Josh Ogundele, who definitely does not have maybe a refined offensive game, but is willing to bang down low, cause some issues for Purdue. But typically we're starting Philip Abracha, UND guy, 6'9", probably playing a bit out of place at the 5, maybe more of a 4. So that'll definitely be interesting to see how we handle that in that game. You mentioned Jacob Gilyard shooting well from deep, shooting 36%. Tyler Burton is shooting 38%. You also mentioned him earlier on in the show about just kind of a recruiting perspective. What does Tyler Burton do to get this Richmond team going, and what do teams need to be worried about with Tyler Burton?
I mean, his athleticism, he has NBA athleticism. When you talk about, not having A10 size versus Big Ten size or, Big Ten athleticism, like he has Big Ten athleticism. And he's probably one of our only guys who has that. But he's a next level athlete, can get above the rim, can really drive. Has gained a lot of confidence. He had a huge jump this year from last year and kind of blossomed in what everybody thought. We all thought he would be one of the most talented players to come through here when he signed. And, obviously he had to take a back seat the past few years because we had such, a special team and special guys. And one of our guys, who's actually my teammate now, Blake Francis, left the team last year. So now he stepped into that role. Blake averaged 17. So now, he averaged 17 and he really embraced it. Oh my gosh.
What happened?
Oh no, I was looking. Oh, my fault. Sorry.
No,
I thought we missed the trip. Oh, okay. Never mind. I thought that it said we missed our plane got delayed again.
That would be frustrating as hell.
Dude, we've had a little COVID scare here, so it's been a lot of like kind of just waiting for the whistle, you know what I mean, waiting for direction and stuff like that. So, but anyway,
when's your game?
What'd you say?
When is your game? Is it tomorrow night?
Yeah, tomorrow night in Detroit.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So we'll play. Which is funny. We'll
play
play
Luka Garza.
Yeah.
You're playing
so
Motor
one
City
of my
Cruise.
teammates, my point guard, my senior year, Chandre Jones is his teammate. So he's been sending us some clips and this, that, and the third and whatnot. So it's been fun.
That's awesome. That'll be a lot of fun. So are you going to be matching up with Luka, or because Luka's going to be playing more of the 5, you'll be playing probably the 4?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll
so
be fun,
I might play backup 5. Like I said, we had some COVID injuries and COVID scares, so it might be more so. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's fun. I didn't even make that connection that you were going to Detroit and you were going to be playing Luka Garza. Lots of connections all around here. So we talked a little bit about Tyler Burton. You said that he's kind of made that jump. Keegan Murray also made a huge jump from this past season to this year, putting himself in National Player of the Year contention. When you look at Keegan Murray's game, how does Richmond defend a Keegan Murray?
I think that's going to be a job by committee, if you will. I think we're going to have to throw, we talked about double teams. We're going to have to throw a lot of bodies at him. We're going to have to throw a lot of different looks at him. We're going to have to make sure that he's not comfortable ever. He's just so athletic. Like I've said, I've watched a fair amount of your guys' game, and he kind of is weird, like that last dunk he had over Gillis for Purdue, right? It's like there's no way he gets that ball and gathers himself and dunks it, right? But he does it on a guy. So it's just like being there before he's able to jump and kind of make his moves, because once he's there, it's too late with that kind of athleticism. So I think it's really keying in on making him work and making him be a passer. But I do think that we play really good team defense, and we're coming off a really good Davidson performance where we really, stuck our nose to the ground and just locked in. And I think we have a lot of guys, a lot of bodies we can throw at him, a lot of length that maybe some teams, haven't thrown at him. I know we're not the biggest team, but we do have a lot of length on the wings, so maybe we can try to throw that at him and just see how it goes. But as you know, like college, and as I've seen from pro, it's like college is so different because you can pack the paint. Like there's no 3 seconds. You can really, really make teams, and that's why the shooting helps you guys so much. But talking about a Keegan Murray, I think you got to just focus on him first, and that comes from sending an extra guy help side, being a little more help than usual.
Absolutely, and it's going to be interesting to see how that all works. Iowa earlier in the season, not able to space the floor as much. We weren't able to shoot the ball as well, but over the last 2 months, has really come along across the board. I mean, we set the Big Ten record for 3-pointers made in our first game of the Big Ten tournament. And talking to Big Ten analyst Trey Demps, he actually talked about Keegan Murray, and he said, kind of alluding to what you said, he does such a good job of controlling himself, and his body control when he's going up for shots is just truly impeccable. I don't think people realize just how impressive that last dunk was for him to track the ball down, gather himself, and dunk it with Gillis going on him. I mean, that's a pretty impressive play.
I mean, amazing. I mean, just the balance really to have that. Like, it's you can't teach that type of athleticism, and that's the one play that stuck out to me. But there's been a lot of plays that have stuck out to me where you think he's going to lay it in and he dunks on someone, or he turns that corner and he's going to lay it up and one hand tomahawk. So his athleticism is next level. I think his game's next level. He's you guys got a good one out there.
Yeah, he's a guy who's going to definitely be playing in the NBA next year, looking at a projected top 10 pick, which is something that we haven't seen in Iowa in like 30 years. So that's pretty exciting stuff. You obviously have a good understanding of Richmond, and I appreciate you coming on. You have a good understanding of Iowa as well, which I was not expecting, but without a doubt, really appreciate, because you can kind of talk through how this game would look. What are your expectations for this game then? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, I'm gonna the way I look at it is I can't give an unbiased opinion, right? It's like it's like with your kids. Your kids can do anything for till he or she's 5 years old, right? And they're still gonna be an angel. So it's like I'm so skewed on what I think. Like Richmond's gonna win the NCAA tournament in my eyes, but realistically, it's I do think that we do have a chance because of the matchup. It's not. I said Keegan Murray's athletic, but it's not an overly athletic team. With that being said, you guys do have a lot of similarities with the skill level. Sorry about that. With the skill level. But I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll come down. I think it'll be a mid-70s game. I could see us just getting a few stops because, we had to come back from down 7 against Davidson in like a minute 30. So it's like there's no stopping us and there's no stop fighting in you guys. So I really do think it's going to come down to the wire, a mid-70s game, and I think it's going to be a guy like a Gilyard or a Burton, or for us it's been Matt Grace, who's been a savior the last 2 games. And for you guys, like a Bohannon or Chris Murray, I think who's going to hit a big time shot at the end, and kind of that's what we live for March for. So I think it's going to be a great game. I'm excited for it. I'm so fired up for it. I know that you guys are too, but I really do think it's going to be a classic 5-12 game. So it's going to be fun.
I hope it's not as classic as the typical upset that we see. I definitely hope Iowa can advance past that. I would say though, Richmond, everything I'm hearing from you and everything I'm looking at on the other side with Providence and South Dakota State, if Richmond can get past this Iowa matchup, I think there's a really good chance for Richmond to make kind of a run here. I think that bracket is not that hard outside of getting past that Iowa game. So definitely going to be interesting there. TJ, I appreciate you coming on, man. I know you are busy and taking the time out of your day to talk to me. Any last words you want to say before we hop off the show, buddy?
No, I appreciate you having me. I appreciate you having me, man. I'm fired up for this game. Go Spiders, man. Good luck to you guys if you guys win, but I know it'll be a fun one. So thanks.
It'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, and guys, when everyone out there checking out this podcast, this YouTube show, make sure to check out the game tomorrow if you can. The Motor City Cruise versus the Capital City Go-Go's. We got TJ versus Luca Garza, so it should be a pretty interesting game. Hawkeye Nation, I appreciate you all tuning in to today's episode of the show. Have a fantastic Wednesday, y'all, and as always, let's go.